Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League Racing TV YouTube channel for round 7 of the 4th season of TTML Division 3. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Commences. I'll be taking you through proceedings this evening as per usual, and joining me in the commentary box as per usual is Conti. Conti, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, really good. And I must say, yesterday, listened to you again in EML and enjoyed myself.
Yeah, it was a really good race actually to cap off the season with the EML Teams Championship yesterday. So yeah, final round of the season. That 10-month-long championship is now officially over, which is kind of sad to say actually. Got nothing to look forward to now on a Wednesday, but that was a brilliant way to end off the season last night. So if any of you haven't watched that yet, go back and watch that. But looking forward to today's race in Division 3. 7th round of the season already. We've only got 4 rounds to go, including this one in the championship. So we're getting right to the pinch point now of the championship, and we've got to say now, at this point, you'd say unless our top two have some major bad luck in the next few rounds, it looks like it's a two-way fight between Simply Superman and Jan for the championship.
Yeah, it is. They got a small gap to P3, which is our big consistent friend, which I know, but I can't. His name just doesn't pop up. Please help me here because I'm embarrassing myself. Graham, yes, thank you, Graham. This is a bad way to start a stream. I'm really sorry, but no, yeah, they got a little gap to Graham, and yeah, to be honest, that the gap between Simply Superman and Jan isn't that big, but yeah, it's sufficient enough if Simply Superman doesn't make a mistake. So I think the other guys are really hoping for that.
They definitely are. Speaking of that gap between the top two in the championship, it is 24 points coming into this round of the season with 4 to go. Simply Superman has led the way pretty much from the outset. He's had a brilliant season so far. Yeah, he's had an absolutely brilliant season so far. 24 points in the lead of the championship over Jan. Jan then further behind him. It is, I believe, if my maths are correct, a 32-point gap back to Graham in 3rd place. Jabu has jumped into 4th after his first podium of the season, and in TTML actually. Last time out at Spa, so he's 4th, just ahead of David, who had great early season form, but a run of bad luck just really has put paid to what could have been a great championship for him. He sits 5th, just behind Jabu. I think the biggest surprise, though, we talked about this a little, though, didn't we, before the start of the stream? Secret DJ Jill, probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest person in this division, only 6th in the standings, 81 points, has nearly half the points of Simply Superman.
Yeah, and that just shows that if you're only being fast isn't enough. You have to be consistent as well, because I honestly think he is the fastest guy in this division, but he just has too many DNFs. He had a couple of crashes, and yeah, that's why he's only in 6th, but he could be higher up pace-wise.
Yeah, pace-wise he should be right in this title battle, but as of now it is pretty much over for him. If he leaves this round to over 93 points behind Simply, I think it's 96 actually, or I think it's 96, but I can't remember, my maths is absolutely terrible, but it's maybe around 100 points if he this round over 100 points behind. That's championship completely over for DJ Jill, but it's just not been a good run of form, which, considering what happened in the first round of the season, would be a shock for a lot of people. We utterly dominated the first round in the wet conditions at Silverstone, was over half a minute clear of the rest of the field before a late safety car, so had an absolutely brilliant run there. Just hasn't really been able to recreate it since. Langfell is in 7th place in the standings ahead of Kiki, Steve and Kieran Trapp rounds off the top 10 after his best result of the season so far, of I believe a 5th place finish last week at Belgium. So he's had a good run of form recently as well, and that's put Red Bull up into 3rd in the manufacturers now as well. Alfa Romeo lead that, but only by 8 points over Racing Point as it stands. So that's a close battle between those two as well. And looking forward to the championship, it's been, well, I say it's been Simply Superman kind of leading the way pretty much the majority of the way through this season. Jan, though, has been on a incredible run of consistency, hasn't he? Yes. I believe last race was his 5th podium in a row, if I remember correctly. But yeah, he's just he's doing so good. He didn't win a race so far this season, I believe, but he's been up there race after race, and yeah, that's why he's in 2nd place and only 24 points behind
Simply Superman, which isn't massive, but yeah, if he can put in some race wins now, he can, he needs it as well to just put pressure on Simply Superman.
Yeah, he really does. He needs to get that elusive first win of the season under his belt. So really trying to swing the momentum back in his way. Simply Superman did win last time at Belgium with a dominant performance. It was his third victory of the season for Simply Superman. It's been the season, really, he's been threatening ever since the start of TTML in Season 1. He's had great pace, has had race victories. He was running very similar to what we saw Isotopic do in the early seasons of Division 3. Isotopic was able to master that performance quite early on and then moved up to success in Division 2, especially this season. But Simply Superman in the last couple of seasons just hasn't had that run of form. He's always had the pace. It seems like this season, though, he's finally been able to unlock it. Jan has recovered as well from what was a pretty dismal season for him last season, where he finished outside the top 10 in points. Just a horrible run of bad luck for him put pay to what could have been a pretty decent season because he had great pace as well. We come now to Russia for the 7th round of the season, and I think we do it every week. We go through the track. We kind of have to talk about this track, don't we? I mean, on the game at least, it's a fairly simple track to master, and it's not exactly a difficult circuit. It's fairly easy to invalidate around here, but it's also, again, easy to keep it nice and clean around here. It's not like there's any undulations or heavy curves that are really going to affect you. The problem is that this track, especially in real life, is just got no character, really, has it?
Yeah, it doesn't. Most of the time in real life, it's dull races. We talked about it a little before we went live. A lot of people on this game are complaining about this track because it is quite slippery, and some of them find it a bit dull. But I must say, me personally, I actually really like this track for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. I think the fact that it's a fairly simple track, as we've seen just riding with Kieran Trapp. It's 90 left after 90 right. It is very reminiscent of somewhere like Singapore, which has a lot of corners. The only thing about Singapore is the track is a lot more bumpy and it's a lot narrower as well. This track is kind of a street circuit, but without the walls in a way in some sections. The walls are right there on the straights, but as soon as you get to the corners, there's acres of runoff these guys can run into. So the challenge really of a regular street circuit is diminished by the fact that we've got runoff at pretty much every single corner. Everyone on the grid has gone out onto the track early, apart from Felgen and Jan, who I think is just David, who are just leaving the pit lane now. But everyone has gone very early for their first run. Simply Superman, our championship leader, is going to be the first person to take us through a lap around the Sochi Autodrome. He heads to the right-hand side of the track through turn 1, which really isn't a corner in modern Formula 1 cars. Turn 2 is the first real corner of the circuit. Heavy braking zone. This could create carnage, and the first lap of the race cuts through the kink of turn 3 and then into the long 180-degree turn 4. Nice and easy track this one is. No, easily flat out through that corner. In the wet, it's a little bit more difficult as he heads into turn 5 to the end of the first sector. First sector time for Simply Superman is a 32.6. Look out for anyone behind trying to beat that, but Simply Superman's qualifying performances this season have been absolutely stellar. He's coming up to turn 7, hits the curb on the inside nicely, a little bit of mid-corner understeer, but gets away with it. Don't hit the sausage curb on the inside of it. It can throw your car into the air. That corner is a little bit off camber as well. Turn 10 before the back straight. The DRS zone down this back straight is incredibly powerful in the race. Note that one. While it's fairly easy to keep up with cars in front, the DRS, especially down this straight, is very, very strong. To the end of the second sector then, breaking through 12 into 13. Fairly easy to lock up as it's a little bit downhill as well, but Simply Superman gets it stopped nicely. Now it slows down a little bit for the final part of the lap. A lot of off-camber corners here. Turn 15, the most off-camber of them all, and you can see there Simply Superman having to take a few stabs at the throttle to get the car going in the right direction. Towards 17 and 18 then for the end of the lap. Don't hit the sausage curve on the inside of 17. It's very similar to turn 8, and then the final corner of the lap, a short dash to the line, and it's a 29.8 from Simply Superman to put it on provisional pole. Behind him, Tom only manages a 31.6, but I believe he is on the medium compound tyres, as he has done a lot so far this season. Kiki then up into a net second place with a 30.5. Break FN on his return to TTML has gone third in the McLaren. He's a reserve, to look out for him. He could have a good result. He's had many strong races in the past. Across the line comes David to start his next one. DJ Jill to the top of the times. 9.5, a brilliant time from DJ Jill, and I think for the first time in about 3 rounds, it's not Simply Superman at the top of the pile after the first runs.
Yeah. Normally he just has some kind of subscription on first run provisional pole position, and most of the time isn't able to put in a better time after that. But yeah, he has to now, because great time put in by Secret DJ Jill today.
Yeah, brilliant time for him then at the front of the field. It is DJ Jill, Simply Superman, Kiki, Break FN. Nelly's gone into 5th place in the Haas. Once again, though, the top 2 in qualifying is Simply Superman and Secret DJ Jill. They have been the class of qualifying all season long already. The gap between 1st and 3rd is 9/10 of a second. That is a big gap around this circuit as well. Got more people on their runs at the moment. Jan giving David, his teammate, a bit of a tow down the back straight towards turn 13. We'll see what his middle sector is looking like. He kind of needs to be in the 1 minute 3s to be right at the front. It's a 4.1. That's not going to get him that high up the field. Langford and Graham have crossed the line and set exactly the same lap time, and they're in 7th and 8th for the time being. Jan currently only 9th on the grid, with his championship rival over a second clear of him in qualifying in 2nd place. David then coming towards the end of his lap. Felgen was on a lap but has invalidated somewhere around it, so he's not been able to put a time in so far. David around the final corner, currently 14th without a time, crosses the line, goes 5th with 30.5, a good lap time for the race. But yet again, the gap between the top 2 and the rest of the field in qualifying is absolutely...
Yeah, absolutely massive, and that's what they showed in a couple of races as well. It's not only their qualifying speed that is really good and on point, but their race pace as well. So yeah, doing absolutely great, and really curious to see if anybody is able to come close to their times.
You have to wait and see. It's been a little bit weird this season. It started off being very reminiscent of Season 2, with a lot of drivers being very, very close together. It's now kind of turning into a replica of Season 3, where we had F1 AMG and Old School at the front of the field by quite some distance. It's happening again. Felgen was pushing on another lap, but he has invalidated yet again, so he'll stay in 17th for the time being. 5 drivers at the moment without a time. Felgen, one of them. Atlas Copo, Steve, Secret Dundee and Kieran Trapp yet to put a time on the board. 2 drivers have put a time on the board on the medium compound tyres. That's Tom in 12th and Sean in 14th position. Tom has been going around doing multiple laps, and he's finally back into the pit lane, so he had quite a bit of fuel on board that car, and the delta in qualifying, at least between the softs and the mediums, is quite large, so you would imagine that Tom is going to gain a few positions once he puts the soft compound tyres on. Only person at the moment on a lap is Kieran Trapp, so we'll ride with the Red Bull man, who's had a good run of form recently, but inside the top 10 in the points now for the first time in a long time in TTML, as he heads through turn 3 and towards turn 4. We'll see what his first sector is looking like. But it's nice and neat there through turn 4, not using a lot of the curb on the exit of the corner, keeping it nice and tidy. It's a 33 flat at the end of the first sector. That's already 4/10 of a second down on what Simply Superman managed to do in the same sector of the lap. So clearly a lot more confidence you could see there on board Kieran Trapp, having to take 2 stabs at turning into the corner. Into turn 8, hops over the curb, loses the road of the car a little bit through 9, but gets away with it. And towards turn 10, again just not taking a lot of apex speed, is keeping it nice and neat, but it's just not carrying the speed with it at the moment. So he heads down the back straight and towards turn 13, looking for a 1 minute 3 to be competitive. It's a 4.5. That is about half a second of what David had done at the same point in the lap, so I doubt that this time it's going to get Kieran Trapp inside the top 10 unless he has an absolutely stellar final sector. Through the final sector he comes now. Less of a wobble through that corner than other drivers we've seen, but still not really carrying the speed as he comes up towards the final 2 corners of the lap. Kieran Trapp already derating, interestingly, before he gets to the penultimate corner. Through the final corner, and his first lap on the board is a 31 flat, goes P11, just behind Jan, then not far off his teammate, but still 1.5 seconds off pole position at the moment. Talking a little bit about Kieran Trapp, though, his run of form recently has been really good, and it's good to see another driver improving as the season goes on.
Yeah, it is. As I was just on board with Atlas Copo, who spun at the end of his lap and invalidated, so that's a shame to see. But yeah, Kieran Trapp just slowly but surely beginning to enjoy this championship, I think. Last week was a great result, and started off not in the best of fashions. We've seen him better, but slowly surely he's picking up some good points in the championship and enter the top 10. So I think if he can keep on just improving himself this season, top 5, I think we won't see him there, but we could surely see him win a couple more positions till the end of the season, before the end of the season.
It is definitely possible. Meanwhile, Simply Superman is on an absolute flyer at the moment, nearly 3/10 up at the end of the second sector. DJ Gill has just started his second run in qualifying. Can Simply Superman then steal back pole position, what would be his fourth pole of the season? Not quite. He loses a little bit of time in that final sector, stays second, but he's into the 29.5s. That means both of our top two are now 9/10 clear of the rest of the field. Breaker Fens already invalidated his next run in the Nelly is a 10th up in the first sector to arrive with a Haskar who has improved form recently. His points in the championship don't really reflect it. He's currently 14th in the points behind his teammate Flores. It's not been a great run of luck really for Nelly so far. He's now 3/10 up by the end of the second sector, so could be a good improvement for him. Jan's had a good improvement, nearly 6/10 he's been able to find and has gone from 10th all the way up to 3rd. That's a good improvement for the man second in the championship, just one place behind Simply Superman in qualifying at the moment, although I feel Nelly to spot himself in that big gap between second and third place through the final two corners. There comes the Haskar. It's been a nice, neat and tidy lap, and towards the line he goes. He does slot into that gap. A 10th clear of Jan, goes third fastest, and Nelly again, like I mentioned, really improving form recently, has great pace, just not had the luck to go with it.
No, didn't have the luck to show off with it, and also some bad decisions. I can remember last week he was gambling on the rain to hit harder at the end of the race and went on a really long stint after starting from last position, I believe, as Secret DJ Jill just came in and improved with 2/10s and has 1:29.3 now. So yeah, it's a combination of bad luck and some bad decisions during the race that really cost him so far.
Yeah, just not really been a good run of form, but still he's definitely got the pace to be right up there. Stinner's gone third, meanwhile in the Ferrari. That's a good time for him. He's only the third driver in the session to get into the 1:29 then, so his third place at the moment looking pretty comfortable. Tom's gone up into fifth on his first run on the soft compound tyres. David has now just jumped up into fourth place, so he has dislodged Nelly and Tom from that fourth and fifth they were in. Jan has now dropped back down to seventh after initially being in third place for about what seemed like maybe 20 seconds, and he's immediately lost that as people have gone and improved on their runs. We're still waiting for times from Dundee and Atlas Copo. Dundee's invalidated. Atlas Copo, like you mentioned, spun on his previous one. At the moment though, you've got to say the person most out of position on the grid has got to be Jabu, down in 16th place at the moment.
Yeah, last week picking up a podium with the second position, nice podium, first podium in TTML, and now in 16th place, and that's just a little bit Ferrari this season with Stinner and Jabu. Both are really fast drivers, as we could have seen, but they just, if they can connect it together, they would have been higher up in the standings, but also. Jabu isn't bad in fourth position, but also in constructors they would have been higher up.
Yeah, they definitely would have been higher up if that was the case. Having a couple of people having problems with the lobby at the moment, but it seems like it's just a case of people's connection not being the best. Secret Dundee has gone P11 on his first run. That's on the second lap on the same set of soft compound tyres, so there's still some more pace in that car. 11th on the grid though, Dundee, another driver that has been steadily improving as the season goes on, as he just completely cuts across turns 2 and 3 there, so that might be looked at a little bit. Graham on a lap at the moment as well, currently 14th on the grid. Graham's never really been strong in qualifying. It's always in the race where he has been right up there. He was in the championship battle early on in the season. A couple of poor performances in recent rounds meant that he hasn't been able to keep up with the top two in the championship, but he does sit in a comfortable third place at the moment in that battle, with Jabu just behind him, David right in that one as well as Secret DJ Jill, so that's going to be a good battle for third place. Graham did find time in the first sector, hasn't found anything in the middle part of the lap though, so it looks like this might not be an improvement unless he can find a good amount of time in the final sector. It'll have to be well over 2/10 he'd find in the final sector to get him anywhere near the top 10 at this point in time, and he's decided to bail into the pit lane, so Graham at the moment not looking too comfortable around this track.
No, he doesn't, and as you mentioned before, it isn't the fastest guy in quali, but mostly we see him in challenging in the top 10, around 6-7 position in qualifying. And another one who's really struggling is Atlas Copo, who invalidated his lap on the last corner. So that means he can't do a second run because if you invalidate in the last corner, it's an invalidation for the lap after as well. So yeah, really struggling, and I don't think Atlas Cooper will be able to put in a time. Don't know if he has enough time.
It might just have enough time. The only problem is here is that he's gone out so many times invalidated that I worry that he's actually completely run out of soft compound tyres at this point in the session as well. It's just not been a good run in this session and really all season, unfortunately, for Atlas Coppo. His transition into Division 2 has been a little bit of a baptism of fire for the Williams driver. He's never really had the pace to really keep up with the drivers around him. Break FN is the first person to start his final run in qualifying. He's gone out a little bit early, maybe with a bit more fuel on board in case he does invalidate on this first run through the first sector. Turn 4 there was really nice on the McLaren man. He's found a 10th and a half in the first sector already, so it's been a good start to the lap for the McLaren reserve driver, filling in for Hero Jokin, who is not here tonight, unfortunately. It's going to continue on with this lap right on the limit there of nearly invalidating, but getting away with it, hopping over the curb nicely at turn 8, coming up towards turn 10 then. Looks very committed this lap so far. A little bit of a lock up into turn 10. Didn't quite get the car turned into the corner as he would have liked, but it's not going to cost you too much time around this track. You carry so much speed anyway that a minute knock up is not going to cost you too much. Break FN still that 10th and a half up by the end of the second sector. Now it's all about the final sector of the lap. Can he find any time hopping over the curb nicely on the inside of turn 14 towards 15 then in the off-camber corner, throws it in, carries a lot of speed, runs it a little bit wider on the exit for a tighter line through 16, maybe not the best line through the corner, but carried a lot of speed in the first part of that chicane towards the line. Then currently 12th on the grid is Break FN. Where can he put that? McLaren P8. He does find a little bit of time in that final sector up into the top 10 for the McLaren driver, but it does kind of look like that this track in terms of actual grip is ramping up very quickly.
It is. You can see drivers being able to carry more speed into the corners and don't understeer as much as they did in the first couple of runs. So yeah, I think everybody who's going out now is just going to go for the limit, and some will invalidate, and maybe you can see some with massive improvements because of the track condition bettering, and them just going flat out all or nothing.
You'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately, there's been an invalidation for Steve, so he's not going to be improving unless he's got enough fuel for a final run. Tom is on a run as well at the moment, currently 6th on the grid, has great pace. Much like Nelly, though, just hasn't had good races in terms of strategy or luck. It's just never really fallen his way, unfortunately. Real commitment there through 8, but he was too fast into the corner and is invalidated on the exit of it, so he's not going to be improving on that 6th place as it stands. I don't think he's quite going to have enough time to get back to the line, and one of the racing points has gone around. I think that's David that spun on his outlap.
Yeah, and Jan, I don't think he did a lot. I think I saw a 6/10 improvement, but he just came over the line, just starting his lap. So I think there was a little glitch from my side. So sorry for my almost excitement here.
Almost excitement, yeah, but I think David there waiting for his teammate actually so he can give him a tow. Jan's already found a 10th of a second in the first sectors. That's been a good start to the lap. David has compromised himself massively here for his teammate. He's not going to have enough time for a final run in this session. He is literally just waiting for his teammate. He doesn't want to slow down too much and give his teammate dirty air through these corners. More people setting their times at the moment. Then Break FN session is over. He's not going to get another run in this session. Jabu crosses the line, only 17th on the grid for the Ferrari man. That is not the session that he would have wanted. Then here comes to the line David there, having to move out the way of his teammate here. David actually kind of blocking his teammate here in this qualifying session. He's not moved out the way. He's given his teammate a tow and then has just kind of sat in the way. DJ Gilles improved on his time to confirm that provisional pole position. Stinner and Simply Superman are both improving on their laps. David has just held up his teammate here for no real reason at all. What on earth was that call from David? I think he might be in AI mode. For some reason he is in AI mode, but because he was, his car was then taken over and it's just blocked Jan on a lap that could have put him right up into 3rd place on the grid.
Yeah, incredible. I really thought, wow, this is the first time we're gonna see the Racing Point drivers working together, and he gave him a great tow. But I was as surprised as you that in the end of the straight he did move out of the way, and yeah, in the end I think he made a terrible mistake going into AI, and yeah, as you said, it costed Jan probably a top 5 quali.
Yeah, at least the top 5 as Nelly's gone P3, interestingly on the same time as Stinner, but has managed to get ahead of the Ferrari man on the grid. The only other person at the moment on a lap is Langfeld, but he's invalidated when he was a 10th and a half up across the line. I think when Atlas Copo into 15th place, so he was able to get a time on the board, and he gets off the back row, which means that Jabu is on the back row of the grid. That is not the qualifying that he would have wanted. A real bizarre end to qualifying. It's DJ Jill on pole once again with Simply Superman on the front row. That is pretty much a given, almost going into every round this season, and it's been like that. Nelly once again up there with Stinner 3rd and 4th on the grid ahead of David. Dundee with a good qualifying in 6th, but one of the bigger points there, 2nd place man in the championship, Jan, massively compromised by his teammate in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I actually don't have any words for that.
Yeah, really, really bizarre end to qualifying. And the problem is now is that Jan, when he could have been up maybe where David is on the grid in 5th place, he's now 9th. And one of the back drivers on the soft compound tyres around a track where the alternate strategy can be pretty strong. So not looking good for Jan in this one. DJ Jill on pole from Simply Superman, Nelly, Stinner, David, Secret Dundee, Steve, Tom, Jan and Break FN are your top 10. Kiki, the first person outside the top 10 in 11th ahead of Sean, Langfeld, Graham, Atlas Copo, Felgen, Kieran Trapp, Jabu and Flores are your full qualifying order. A big split in qualifying in the end. Then it was a second exactly covering 1st to 7th place, the top 2 miles out in front on the grid. But we've seen this countless times before where these two have been on the front row and DJ Jill has made too many errors and lost the race victory. So now is the time for DJ Jill to try and reverse that trend.
Yeah, he needs a race like the first one where he just dominated the race from start to finish, and finished miles ahead of the rest, and that's what he needs. And just no little slip-ups of his concentration or any mistake needed, or he's absolutely out of title chances.
Yeah, it's just not been the run of form that he would have wanted. There's still plenty of things to play for the rest of the season. A 3rd place in the championship for him is still fully up for grabs, so we'll wait and see what he is able to pull out of this race. 19 drivers then coming into this one. And the alternate strategy, I did touch on it briefly at the end of qualifying, but the alternate strategy here is pretty strong, isn't it? The soft tyres it's an easy soft medium around this track. The tyre wear's not that large, but the soft compound tyres at the end of the race do have a pretty strong pace advantage.
Yeah, they do, especially with the lighter cars. The soft tires, if you have a soft tire on your final stint, you can easily win a couple of positions because of overspeed. On the medium runners who are a bit older than, because they have to pit earlier when they start on the soft tires. So yeah, definitely, if you're outside of the top 10, you want to start on the medium tire.
Interestingly, looking at the strategies outside the top 10, it's almost an even split, which is a little bit bizarre, I think. A little bit bizarre that we've seen so many people go for the softs, especially Graham here usually pull off really great strategies, but starting on the softs in 14th place seems to be a little bit of a backward step for the Red Bull man. In fact, both Red Bulls are starting on the soft compound tyres. They're 14th and 17th on the grid. Flores 19th on the grid is on the softs. Falcon is also on the softs in 16th place. Kiki, Sean, Langfell, Atlas, Copo and Jabu on the mediums. But especially from Graham, the soft compound tyres here, if he wants any chance of this strategy working, he has to pass the 3 drivers in front of him almost immediately so that he doesn't get split from the rest of the soft runners.
Yeah, he does. And as you said before, the DRS training is pretty powerful here. So if he doesn't and he gets stuck in a DRS train, even on the soft tires, it's really hard to overtake people. And yeah, you're just gonna sit there in frustration, burning up your tires, trying everything in your power to overtake people, but you won't succeed.
Yeah, it's going to be a really difficult race for him. We'll wait and see how this one plays out. An early safety car could play into his advantage, but we'll wait and see. Anything can happen. It's Russia. Racing around here usually pretty intense. DJ Jill and Simply Superman, like we mentioned, on the front row of the grid. Before everyone lines up, though, Conti, who are you predicting for race victory today?
For race victory? Yeah, I think Secret DJ Jill is going to keep it together today, and he was a bit faster in quali, but I think he will win the race today as well. So pick up pole position and a race win.
I've got
What's your prediction?
I've got my eye on Simply Superman. I think he's had such a good run of form this season. He knows how to get the job done, and is going to be the one to look at. Anything can happen. We've seen some surprise results already this season. So we'll wait and see as at the back row the grid, Jabu and Flores line up in 18th and 19th on the grid. Then we now wait for the lights ahead of the driver. It's a long run down towards turn 2. Anything can happen, especially on the exit of the kink of turn 1. Who's going to get the best start? Long hold, but the lights are out and away they go in the background. One of the Williams got an incredible start in the back of the field. Kiki plummeting off the line, but into turn 1. DJ Jill just holds the lead, but Simply Superman is looking down the inside. Nelly having a think of looking to the inside as well, and Simply Superman using up his ERS late on the brakes into turn 2. He's got the move done. There's contact there between DJ Jill and Nelly. Somehow they're still facing in the right direction, but my word, that was very close to a massive accident. DJ Jill holds second place, Nelly holds third, and they've both gotten away, it seems like, without any damage. Jabu is the only one that's come a cropper. DJ Jill's crashed completely on his own. Coming out of turn 4, he's just driven into the wall for no apparent reason. Coming out of the corner, just maybe not paying any attention, and it's clipped the wall when our pole sitter hasn't even made it to the end of the first sector before making that crucial error that he's done so many times already this season. He's down to 18th. That puts Simply Superman in a comfortable lead. Nelly's up into second. Stinner's up to third. Secret Dundee's had a great start. He's up into 4th place. Dave, Tom, Break FN, Jan 9th. Langfell yet again on the alternate strategy, having a brilliant start. He's challenging Jan, who's not had a good start on the soft compound tyres, and Simply Superman can clear of the pack.
Yeah, incredible stuff. That's really sorry, Secret DJ Jill. I think that has to be a commentator's curse from my side, so apologies. But yeah, you called it. So far, I mean, we've got a long way to go, but Simply Superman knows how it works, and comfortably in front of Nelly, who did a great job as well. And yeah, Graham, who started on the soft compound of tire, lost a couple of positions compared to his teammate Kieran, who started behind him.
Yeah, Kieran started this race in 17th position. They have now swapped. I think they're running in 13th and 15th at the moment, so it's not been a good start to the race for Graham in this one. He's tucked up behind Flores. Flores has actually had a brilliant start in that Haas car. I don't know if Graham's got any damage or whether he had any contact, but that seems a little bit uncharacteristic. He's not got any visible damage. And Kiki had a shocker of a start. Tom and Steve, meanwhile, running side by side for what would be 6th place on the road. Tom late on the brakes down the inside, almost forces Steve out of the road, but Tom gets the move done. Break FN just behind as well, thinking about a move, but can't quite get it done. We've already got our first penalty, and that is Kieran Trapp. They're going to be very common in this race, so look out for drivers getting penalties in this one. Tom then up into 7th place, and you can already tell David's struggling a little bit, maybe with a bit of overheating or just not got the pace, because there's a gap already starting to form midway through the soft runners at the moment.
Yeah, it does, and that's not the only gap. If you just take a look at the gap that Simply Superman has over Nelly, is just massive. We're in lap 3 at the moment, and it's or is it just me? No, it is a massive gap.
Yeah, 2.3 seconds already after 2 laps. It's been a stunning start to the race, obviously helped by DJ. But either way, Simply Superman on of a second faster than Nelly. May go a 34.1 from our race leader. He's got a comfortable margin at the front of the field. The 2 Red Bulls swapping places. Kieran Trapp has actually gone into the pit lane. I wonder if he's broken his wing somewhere on this lap. He's into the pit lane very early on. That is not a scheduled pit stop for him. David may be thinking about a move on Secret Dundee into turn 2. He's not quite close. Break FN now gets the move done on Steve, but runs a little bit wide through the kink of turn 2, and then might have just picked up a warning for that. He gets 7th place either way. Steve really struggling at the moment now. Jan thinking about it all the way outside of turn 3 in towards turn 4. Jan down the inside. Steve decides not to fight that one too hard, and the second place man in the championship is up into 8th place. He's managed to gain a place on Steve. Steve on the soft comp, not looking comfortable again. On the alternate strategy at the moment that is leading all the medium runners.
Yeah, your mic is breaking up a bit, so I just heard half what you were saying. But the move Jan did on Steve was incredible, and that shows it's a space you can see overtakes happen, but you have to trust your rival that he doesn't do anything weird. So great racing from both the guys, and yeah, chapeau as Graham is now putting the pressure on Flores, who has lost a lot of time on OWR Felgen. I'm probably going to feel the pressure of Graham in when DRS is activated.
It definitely looks like it is going to be that way. Apologies if my voice is cutting out a little bit. Hopefully it resolves itself on my end during this stream. We'll wait and see. I'm sure you'll let me know if anything happens. Jan, meanwhile, going for the move on Break FN, down towards, through turn 1 and towards turn 2. Jan, no contest. He breezes around the outside, and there goes my point that the DRS around the track is very powerful then. Jan up into 7th, trying to close in on Simply Superman, trying to gain as many places as he can, so nulling the effect of Simply Superman, who's dominating proceedings once again at the front of this field. Nelly holding firm in 2nd place ahead of Stinner. Secret Dundee, the first person inside the top 10 with a penalty, in 4th place, with David just behind. And interestingly, Tom's had enough pace to close. Oh, did Dundee a big mistake there. But Tom has managed to, what was a 1.7 second gap a couple of laps ago, has actually managed to close in on this queue of cars in front, which either suggests that Tom's got some really great pace, or Nelly is holding these guys up just a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't think Nelly is holding them up massively, because if he was, Stinner would have overtaken him in easily in the DRS zones. But this just shows, I think, Tom's pace, and that he's out of position in the championship overall.
Yeah, he's a little bit out of position. 11th at the moment in the standings behind Kieran Trapp. David yet again Dundee, who's been a little bit all over the place on this lap so far. Dundee at risk of losing DRS to the driver in front. The DRS detection point is literally 10 metres before the activation point. It's a very bizarre way of doing it around this circuit, so Dundee's just got to keep within a second when they cross the line. I think he might just be able to do so he'll be safe for another lap. Tom, though, thinking about maybe a run at David, not quite close enough coming out the last corner, and Tom is pretty much out of ERS, which maybe hints at the fact that he's used a lot of it to close in that gap. Jan is the next person to try and close in that gap, currently in 7th place. It's remained stagnant at 1.8 seconds on this lap so far, but Jan has got pretty decent pace in 7th place. Simply Superman continues to lead. It's 3.2 seconds. Stinner now, do you think, though, is starting to give Nelly a little bit of a hurry up here?
Yeah, he is. He's creeping up in the back of Nelly and putting under pressure. He's been saving up ERS, so definitely a move's coming, and I think it's coming fast.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't be surprised. I'm actually a little bit surprised that a few people on the softs are struggling a little bit more than I expected. I think maybe it is completely clear skies, so I'm wondering whether the hot track temperatures aren't helping these drivers. Break FN, the next driver, to get a time penalty, currently running in 8th place. He is starting to pull away from Steve, and Steve just really struggling on the soft compound tyres. Is just hanging on to the back of Break FN in front. And it's got two medium runners in Langfeld and Sean right behind. The rest of the medium runners, though, are not looking comfortable whatsoever. Kiki has fallen back completely from the back of Graham. Graham's still stuck behind Flores, can't find a way through. Flores is actually closing back in on Velgen. But Kiki and Atlas Copo have come completely separated on the mediums. Jabu had a spin at the start of the race, so he is running completely on his own. And obviously Secret Digital and Kieran Trapp have already pitted in this race. But the medium runners at the moment at the start of this race, apart from Langford and Sean, the medium tyres don't look that fast at all.
No, they don't. And I'm surprised by that as well. I mean, Sean isn't the best man to compare a medium stint to, because he's just really good on the harder compound of tire. He also loves it in qualifying as well. So, but yeah, the rest, guys like Kiki, who normally are competing mid to high pack in Division 3, really struggling hard, and Graham just miles ahead of him.
Yeah, really pulling away. Flores again. The qualifying pace isn't quite there yet, but Flores' race pace this season has massively improved. He's doing a really good job outscoring his teammate at the moment, up there in 13th place in the standings, doing a good job, and I think he'll argue probably his best season so far. He's had a couple of top 10s this season as well. He's sticking right with this queue of cars in front that are forming behind Jan, but Jan is closing in quite rapidly now on the drivers in front of him. Stinner has got up into 2nd place. He's passed Nelly and has got that move now. Nelly down into 3rd. Luckily for Nelly, Secret Dundee behind is equally struggling as much as him, I think. Dundee a little bit all over the road, and already 6 laps in, Dundee has 2 time penalties, so that is pretty much taking Dundee out of the equation already.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And if he already has 6 seconds worth of time penalties now, with still 21 laps to go, it's not looking good for him. And I hope everybody can keep it relatively clean, because it wouldn't be the first time that we see a disqualification around Russia.
Here we go. Here goes David then down the back of Secret Dundee. Dundee losing his DRS, and David, I think, caught out by the overspeed he had. Went to go to the inside line and then changed to the outside and nearly ran straight into the back of Secret Dundee's car. But that just proves how powerful the DRS is, David. David, from, well, 0.4 of a second back when he opened his DRS, was almost past him well before the 200-meter marker for turn 2. So the DRS once again proving to be very powerful. David up into 4th, Dundee down to 5th. He's got Tom now right behind him on the road, and Jan to close in, and dragging break offend Steve, Langfell, Sean and Felgen with him at the moment. It's kind of a queue all the way down to Felgen in 12th. Flores a little bit detached in 13th, with Graham right behind. Atlas Copo picks up a penalty, and still they continue to lose time to Graham in front. Kiki now in 15th place, 2.5 seconds off the back of the Red Bull, just not looking confident whatsoever in that Alfa Romeo. A little bit bizarre. At the front of the field, Stinner, interestingly, is starting to bring the gap down a little bit to Simply Superman at the lead of the field. So while the start of the race has looked very strong for Simply Superman, maybe Stinner is the one to go and challenge him.
Yeah, maybe he is. And yeah, Nelly is able to stay with Stinner because of DRS, so he takes him with him as well, at least for now. Or it's just that Simply Superman is already saving up to his tires and is, well, not really cruising because he's using overtake a lot, but isn't pushing as hard as he could.
Yeah, isn't going to take the risk and push and make a mistake or pick up a penalty, like you mentioned. Into the pits, we've had our first pit stops, then David and Secret Dundee into the pit lane, so we'll see what they can do. This will be good information for the people around. David was 1.3 seconds behind Nelly when he his pit stop. We'll see if the undercut's working, but we've already mentioned so far that the medium tyres don't look that fast around this track. Graham, by the way, has finally got past Flores and up into 11th place on the road, but not without dropping 2.5 seconds to Felgen in front. Jan has got within DRS range of Tom as well, so he is really flying in the second racing point at the moment. Stinner continuing to bring that gap down. It's now down to 2.5. He's now broken DRS well to Nelly, which is not going to help Nelly in his battle with David. Crucially for David, he's come out just ahead of Jabu in 15th place. Secret Dundee just behind. So David here, if he can push massively on this outlap, which it looks like he is doing, he could jump his way up into 3rd, maybe 2nd if Stinner doesn't have the best of pit stops.
He does, but I think Stinner and Simply Superman both are pushing as well. They used up almost all of their ERS. So I think they're already in defense mode against David, and I think they're gonna pit this lap.
Yeah, definitely looks like it. We've had a spinner. I think Jabu, looks like Jabu might have spun, and Secret Dundee's been caught up in the aftermath, unfortunately. So that is a front wing change for Secret Dundee. What a shame for him. I think Jabu might have got away with no damage, but that was a very bizarre incident. Didn't quite see what happened there. And DJ Jill picking up a time penalty in the process as well. Into the pits then comes Nelly into the pits. Simple Superman, our race leader, is in. Steve is in as well. Stinner, Tom and Jan all stay out, as does Break FN. So that's interesting to see. They're going a little bit longer in this race. Where does Nelly come out relative to David? Then David's coming through the penultimate corner and now towards the last corner as well. Simply Superman is off his pit limit, and now he will leave the pit lane and comfortably maintain the net lead of this race. Nelly down the pit lane though. I think David might have him here coming through turn 1. David around the outside has absolutely no ERS to his name, but looks like he is just going to get out ahead of Nelly on track. He does. David 13th on the road, just ahead of Nelly. Crucially though for Nelly, he's got half of his ERS still left. David has absolutely none at all.
Yeah, David has been pushing so hard as Secret Dundee now retired in the pits. Another okay qualifying, good qualifying, but in the race didn't come together. But yeah, I think David was pushing that hard, and he really wanted the undercut to work, that he just used up all of his ERS, and he's going to be in trouble in the next DRS zone because yeah, DRS is already strong there, but in combination with not having ERS or derating on the straight, you're just a sitting duck.
There you are. Nelly then coming out of turn 10 is 6.5 tenths back, so I don't think it's quite enough. He's not using any ERS either, but it's a good indicator. Straight line speed advantage down this straight, closing in a lot more further towards the end of the straight. He'll 14th for the time being, but I think this might be a little bit of a patient game for Nelly in the next match. Sinner into pit lane. Interestingly, Tom and Jan and BreakerFen continue to stay out on the track. Jan here I think is going to go for a move on Tom in towards turn 2. Tom parks it in the middle of the road. Jan is just going to breeze down the inside line and get up into the lead of the race. Holds that lead then through turns 2. Jan runs a little bit wide and Tom looking back down the inside. These two don't need to be fighting as much as they are considering they're going longer on this stint of tyres. Jan then into the lead. Tom down to second place. BreakerFen just behind in third place in that McLaren. But interesting to see, they are going a little bit longer. Out of the pit lane comes Stinner then, and Stinner is still ahead of David, so the undercut here not looking that powerful at all.
Yeah, or just Stinner's pace has been absolutely, stellar. Coming out, pitting 2 laps later than David and still come out in front of him is a great thing. And yeah, Jan, I wouldn't be surprised if he extends his stint 1 lap more, because he's just going long on every race now.
Yeah, I think at this point in the championship, he's got to try everything to be in the right position at the right time. Maybe a safety car could come out right now that could benefit him, or even if he goes a little bit longer now, we have the tyres at the end of the race that he can fight with. He just needs to try something different at this point to get up to Simply Superman, whose net lead is now 5 seconds, so he's gained massively in that pit stop phase. He's over doubled the lead he had over Stinner before they came into the pit lane, so that's worked out really nicely for our net race leader. Speaking of safety cars, Jabu has spun. There is no safety car, but that was a very real risk of one that could have happened. Into the pit lane comes Jan and Tom then from first and second place. BreakerFen has stayed out for another lap, so he now leads the race for the first time in TTML. He leads then. He's 2.5 seconds clear of Langfell, and that is what is interesting to see, despite the fact that the soft runners at the front of the field are Sean here going for a move down the inside of Langfell. Sean is going to take that position away and become the lead medium runner in this race, although Langfell might fight back here around the outside of turn 3. Has he got the pace to hold it around the outside line? It's the long way round. He's not using any ERS, and I think Sean is just going to hold on to that one for the time being. But what I was saying before that is that despite the fact that they were on older soft compound tyres, Jan, Tom and BreakerFen, they still managed to pull away from the medium runners.
Yeah, well, fighting. So, yeah, that shows that the medium tyres aren't as fast as at least I thought. But I must say, even on 10-lap old soft tyres, Felgen is looking faster than the 2 guys in front of him.
Yeah, it definitely does look like that at the moment. This makes me think that the soft tyres at the end of the race are going to be massively strong, but the problem is they've lost so much time at the start of this race that's kind of going to null the effect of their alternate strategy. It's not working at the moment, really. Even for Sean and Langfell, they're not quite far enough up the road at the moment to really make this alternate strategy work for them. They're going to have to hope for maybe a safety car or for the pace advantage to be really, really strong. For Kiki and Atlas Copo, this strategy is really nowhere near working. They're too far back at this point in the race. Kiki's still behind Flores and just can't find a way through at this point in the race. Simply Superman has now caught Atlas Copo on the road as well. BreakerFen is into the pits, as is Felgen. Both McLarens have actually pit on the same lap, which is a very odd and strange call to do. I think Felgen maybe didn't realise that BreakerFen hadn't pitted yet. Flores is also into the pit lane as well. So Sean leads from Langfell. Langfell was going to retake the lead down the pit straight with ease, then he's back into the lead of the race. Sean down to second. Kiki is still right behind, and in the background Simply Superman down the inside of Atlas Copo. No contest. He's up into 4th place and continues to extend his advantage over Stinner, who's got David right behind. Nelly sat right there as well. Jan is running just behind them on the road, but he's about 4 seconds back, so that longer first stint has meant that while he's gained a couple of places in net positions, he's lost time to the leaders around him as Tom passes Steve for 10th on the road.
Yeah, he does. But if he can get his tires working for him, he's not out of the question. I mean, we saw on the soft stint as well that he just closed a 1.7 gap to a group that was, just DRS trading in front of him. So yeah, if he can get his tires working like he did the soft tires, he's on the back of Nelly in no time.
Yeah, definitely could be on the back of Nelly, like you say. We'll have to wait and see what the pace he has on these drivers around him. The pace will probably more likely come towards the end of the race on these tyres, which is why he's gone a little bit longer. Right now, the pace difference is not going to be that big. We'll wait and see, though, how it pans out, especially if the drivers in front of him do start battling. I think David obviously hampering his teammate massively in qualifying. I think he might want to try and make up for the detriment he's put on Jan in this race, and maybe battle Stinner a little bit so that Jan can close in on these guys a bit more. At the moment, the net podium is simply Superman, Stinner and David. First, second and third. Nelly would be in a net fourth. Jan would be in a net fifth. So despite having a poor start and a poor qualifying, Jan in a net fifth. It's still been a decent recovery. He's just going to have to hope that this strategy of going a little bit longer is going to help him a bit later on if he wants to make this a 6-race run of podium finishes.
Yeah, he is, and normally Jan is quite a clean driver, so who knows, we're only halfway. Could be that some guys in front of him pick up penalties, and wouldn't be the first time that he finished out of the top 3 on track, but on penalties he got on the podium.
Yeah, he's done that a few times. He's a very, very clean driver. Like you say, him and Graham have a lot in common, really, in the way that they race. I wonder if it's the same person driving on 2 accounts at one time. I wonder if that's ever possible. They've got 4 arms and 4 legs, but they do run very similar races. Jan on that last lap was running at about the same pace as Nelly in front. He's not losing any time. In fact, David has lost DRS range to Stinner, interestingly. So David, maybe a little bit of error somewhere, or the fact that he's got no ERS to his name whatsoever is now really starting to hinder him. Nelly here is going to have to pounce so that he doesn't let Stinner get up the road. This is for the final podium position at the moment. David using all of his ERS to get back in range, but at the moment it's just not working. This is the opportunity with that split between the 3 drivers in front of him. Simply Superman, though, continues to pull away as Atlacopo has just spun coming out of turn 14.
Oh, does he have... No, he doesn't have... Yeah, he has damage, but no safety car or virtual safety cars. He spins again. Really having trouble getting his car back on track now. Not only struggling in high speed, but also in low speed. Yeah, sad to see Atlas Copo struggle since he's come into Division 3, actually, because it's a fast driver, it's a smart driver. But yeah, this season really struggling to keep up with these guys.
Yeah, it's just not been the season he would have wanted. It's just kind of been mistake after poor run after poor run after mistake for him. He's not really had a break so far this season. It's just been such a shame for him. Good to see him continue on, though. He's not given up on this season whatsoever. He is continuing to push on in this championship as well. So good on him for continuing on at the moment. Stinner then has now pretty much completely broken that gap to David. David's going to have to hope for a mistake from Stinner for him to get back in DRS range. So this now gives Nelly the opportunity to fight for 3rd place on the road. That would be great for Nelly if he could get his first podium of the season. I think his best finish to date so far has been a 5th place. He's been threatening podiums all season long. They've just never really materialised for him. He's currently behind his teammate in the championship. Nelly, Hero, Jokin and Stinner are all outside of the top 10 in the standings at the moment. Stinner and Nelly, you would say, have got to be much further up with the pace they've got. Simply Superman has passed his teammate by the way as well now. So Simply Superman up into 3rd, and Nelly's going to get the move done down the inside of David up into 6th place. So Nelly now into the podium places. Now it is up to Jan to close in on the back of his teammate.
Yeah, this cost him a little bit of time, but let's see, David was almost out of ERS, and Nelly just saved up a couple of laps, so he should be fine, but he needs to break DRS between him and David, and yeah, I think then he's safe. As long as he has David behind him in DRS, he's still under threat of losing that podium position.
Yeah, still under threat at the moment of that happening. Jan's gap between himself and his teammate is 2 seconds. Tom using up his DRS to try and close in on Jan, but Tom just doesn't seem to have a lot of strength speed at all, so Jan is able to hold that place fairly easily at this point in time. None of the medium runners have yet come in for their first stop in this race. Further down, Felgen passes Flores for 13th on the road. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3. That is DJ Gill, whose race has just gone from bad to worse to utterly horrible when he's now doing donuts in the middle of the track. So I wonder if that's going to be maybe some sort of penalty coming his way. It's been an absolute disaster for DJ Gill in this race. Langfeld continues to lead on that alternate strategy. Him and Sean, the only ones at the moment seemingly making this one work. Kiki in 4th. Hasn't lost too much time in the previous laps, but the start of his race really has put pay to what could have been a good race for him as well. And already a pit stop behind the race leader is Kiki around a track where the pit lane is quite long as well. When Kiki comes into the pit lane, he is going to be well behind Flores and is going to have to hope that either a safety car comes out or that pace advantage is massive.
Yeah, I don't think the pace advantage will be that massive that he can fight himself back. But yeah, who knows? Maybe a safety car will happen when he just enters the pits. and Secret DJ Jill, as the looks of it, just DNF'd in the pit lane. He had enough of today's race.
Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? Just kind of gave up really on this race, unfortunately, has DJ Jill, and it's just kind of a reflective really of his season so far. It's just not gone his way whatsoever, and yet again a great opportunity marred by an early race incident. Tom on his ERS here trying to think about a move on Jan in towards turn 2. Is not going to get that done. Felgen, interestingly, with the fastest lap of the race at 34.1. That's a great lap for the McLaren man, but him and Graham have now become so detached from the rest of the runners around him. It's 8.5 seconds between Graham and Break FM. That strategy of going on the soft compound tyres when starting outside the top 10 has not worked one iota for these drivers. They're so detached from the rest of the field. There'll be a sitting duck as well for the likes of Langfell and Sean when they come into the pit lane in a few laps time. So that has not worked at all, and Graham here under massive threat of losing that third place in the championship, not to Jabu, because Jabu is having an utter horror of a race himself as well, but around him in the championship, David at the moment right up there fighting for the podium places.
Yeah, he is. David fighting. Jan slowly coming back. The gap between him and David was 3.5 seconds. It's 2.8 seconds now. And that is with David being in DRS still of Nelly. So yeah, I can see him coming back. And Nelly was gaining some time on Stinnes. He was really understeering out of that corner. But yeah, the gap leveled out a bit now, around 1.5 seconds, so he really has to push to be able to close that gap.
Yeah, I wonder if Stenner made a little bit of an error a couple of laps ago, because he has pulled that gap a bit again in the next couple of laps. Jan's real pace advantage seems to be in the last sector of the lap. He's nearly half a second faster than David and Nelly in front of him in that final part of the lap, but obviously the DRS, as Tom thought about a move down the inside of Jan but couldn't quite get it done again. He's just got no ERS in his back pocket to use, and Tom's car just doesn't look that fast in a straight line, so he's just a little bit stuck in 9th place. Steve completely on his own in 10th, and Felgen has got past Graham, so Graham's race goes from bad to worse. It seems that at least at this track, the Graham just hasn't got any pace whatsoever.
Yeah, and normally he does. I mean, normally you can see him bounce back in the race, but Graham really not enjoying this track, and I'm not surprised if this isn't one of his favorite tracks on the calendar.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't be surprised myself either. It's just not going his way so far. On to lap 17 of this race, and we are still yet to see Langfell and Sean into the pit lane. I would imagine it'll be this lap that we see our two race leaders in for a set of soft compound tyres. Simply Superman, though, is right up behind them on the road. He just continues to dominate in this race, and yet again, when he's not qualified on pole position, made the best of a good start, and the poor mistakes and drivers around him disappeared off into the distance. In Alfa Romeo yet again looking for his 4th win of the season out of 7 races. That'll be a great run of form from Simply Superman here. He retailed all of the mini runners that needed to be at the front of the field now come in. Langfell, Sean and Kiki all into the just going to get out of his box ahead of Kiki, so he is not held up. We'll wait and see where Langfell cuts out relative to the drivers around him. It doesn't look like he's going to be really anywhere near the likes of Break FM. I think he's going to be closer to Felgen and Graham when they come out. Felgen again with the fastest lap of the race, a 33.7 out of the pit lane they cut. Langfell is going to be right in the thick of that battle, I think, between Felgen and Graham. In fact, he's just behind Felgen on the track in 10th place. So Langfell here should easily be able to get past Felgen up into 9th. Beyond that, though, is going to have to rely on penalties and some searing pace to really get any higher than 9th in this race.
Yeah, well, you're saying he should have come easily past, as he's challenging now, and he's going around the outside, and beautiful overtake again in the banked corner where it's possible. But we must forget that Felgen set the fastest lap 2 times in a row on this medium tires, so he's probably one of the only ones on medium tires who found some pace on them.
Yeah, looking really comfortable at the moment is Felgen. He passed Graham up a go and is already over 2 seconds clear of him, so Felgen's got a lot of pace. As further up, David repasses Nelly for 3rd place. That's interesting. David back up into 3rd, Nelly down to 4th, and Jan and Tom now are closing in on these two very quickly. Completely gone amiss. I don't know if there's been a real battle between David and Nelly, or whether there's been a little bit of a mistake, but Jan is now only 1.2 seconds back, make that 1.1 as he comes out of that corner. Jan's going to be desperate to get within DRS range of Nelly in this next lap if he can. Tom's still right behind, but just isn't quite close enough, or doesn't have the ERS to be able to do it. And coming out of the last corner, Jan is going to be within DRS range. So he's made his way there. It's now a 4-car battle for third place. David holds it at the moment, but he has the least amount of ERS of anyone around him, and that kind of solidifies still now, you've got to say, in second place.
It does. It does. And yeah, David holding up Nelly now massively here, and Tom really doesn't have the as you already said, straight line speed, but he's using all of his ERS every time before the straight. So yeah, I think it's a good thing for both Jen and Tom that Tom didn't challenge Jen, because they're on the back of Nelly and David now, and yeah, we got a 4-way battle for third.
Yeah, it definitely would have been the smart move for Tom to stick behind and just let Jan keep up with the driver in front. He's just within DRS range is Jan of Nelly, so he'll be able to keep that down this back straight. Is Nelly close enough to think about a move on David? He is not, but David derating, I think, even before he got on the traction coming out of turn 10, so that just proves that David, much like Tom, is completely out of ERS at this point in the race. That's going to be a real struggle for him to gain some back when he's at the front of the queue as well, but that has put, at least for the time being, him up into a podium position. Langfell, by the way, I said he's going to have some searing pace. He is absolutely flying on this lap. This has been a stunning lap so far from Langfell. Already has taken 2.5 seconds out to Break FN since coming out of the pit lane. We'll see what his lap is like. We'll see Break FN. Break FN did almost his personal best of a 34.8 across the line. Langfell a 33.1, nearly 2 seconds a lap faster. Langfell, with that pace, is going to catch this queue of cars in a couple of laps' time.
He is, but yeah, catching them is one, but you have to overtake them as well, and it's a massive queue of cars, because Steve is coming closer and closer onto the back of well, the queue from David to Tom, and yeah, Sean must say he overtook Felgen a lap before, and is already 2.5 seconds broken 2.5 seconds away of him as well. So Sean doing great on the soft tires as well. So they really are that strong at the end of the race.
Yeah, very, very strong. As Flores, unfortunately, has had a spin. Flores has had a spin coming out of turn 4. I don't know if he's got any damage. I don't think he does, but that's him down to 14th place. Kiki still a little bit separated, but he's been able to get past Graham, so his next target is Felgen on the road for 11th place as it stands. At the front of the field, Simply Superman completely on his own. It's a 7-second lead for the Alfa Romeo driver. He's doing what he's done pretty much all season long, and that is lead from the front. Stinner looking for, I think, his second podium of the season as it would stand. Currently in second place. David on the podium at the moment, but everyone is now swarming up behind him. Nelly right in range. Jan right there as well, looking for his 6th podium in a row and looking to try and keep up with Simply Superman in this championship battle. Tom looking for his first podium of the season as well, and Tom really close to the back of Jan coming out of the last corner, but the fact they're in a DRS train kind of puts pay to any chance of Tom gaining that place. So you've got to say that Tom is using up his ERS to really no effect at all. If he wants a shot at getting past Jan or getting past any of the drivers in front, he just kind of needs to sit in the DRS range and save his ERS.
Yeah, he does. He just have to stay behind Jan and just save up for the next 5 laps.
Going down the inside of Nelly here. Sorry, down the inside of turn 4. There's a slight bit of contact. That was such minute contact, but somehow it's caused Nelly to spin. That was such a bizarre incident. They barely touched each other, and still it completely swung Nelly's car around like a pendulum effect. That is so unlucky. But who yet again is going to be cruelly denied of any sort of good result here, down to 9th place with Sean right behind. That is so bizarre though. You can't blame Jan for going for the move. The move was on. He was down the inside. He was ahead by the time they got to the apex. Just the slightest bit of contact and Nelly went round.
Yeah, and that's the luck Nelly's having this season. Just trying to get on the podium, and in the later stages of the race it all falls apart because of stuff like this, because it was they were touching, but it was such a minor touch. It was just really unlucky for Nelly to spin out in the way he did.
Yeah.
And again, not with completely leaving the race with empty hands, but they could have been fuller, his hands.
Yeah, they definitely could have been. That's just such a shame for Nelly, who yet again is not going to get the result that he would have been wanting in this race. That is, yeah, just such cool luck, but you can't blame Jan for that one either. It's just such an unfortunate incident, really. Sean has now got the move done on Nelly before he's really even opened the DRS. That is just such the grip advantage that the soft compound tyres have. He's just able to breeze past. So Sean's up into 9th. Langfell runs 8th and 2.3 seconds. Who's got 2 penalties anyway, so 7th place is guaranteed at this point in the race for Langfell. He can try and close in on Steve, but beyond that, he's going to have to hope that the drivers fighting for 3rd start to battle each other a little bit more if he wants to get any higher than 6th place in this race as it stands. Simply Superman continues to lead. Stinner is closing in, but you've got to say at this point, the fact that Simply Superman's got nearly 80% ERS and is not troubling the track limits at all, is just cruising at the front of the field, isn't he? He's just got no competition.
Yeah, he's just trying to finish the race in as best as he can. Stinner could probably come close to 2 or 3 seconds behind him, but Simply Superman just dominating and doesn't want to take any risks of spinning out or anything. And speaking of David, Jan and Tom, Steve was closing in, but he's losing time now to these guys. Is under pressure of Break FN, and Langfell almost on the back of these guys as well. So Steve needs to hope to keep up with Break FN because he isn't finding any pace now. His tires are dying off a little at the moment.
Yeah, definitely looks that the way as Langfell picks up a time penalty. So that's not going to help him in his battle with Steve in this race. Jan looking to the inside line of his teammate, but he's not close enough. You would imagine though that David here is not putting up a fight against his teammate if the comes. Jan looking for that 6th podium in a row. He's actually down the inside, and I think David is going to let his teammate through. Does so. So Jan somehow, from a poor qualifying in 9th and a poor start to the race, has managed to find his way back into the podium places. I mean, it's kind of, some of it has been earned, some of it's kind of fallen in the palm of his hands, but either way, Jan somehow still able to get into the podium places, running in 3rd. But at this point in the race, it's not really going to have a shot at 2nd place. Stinner is a little bit too far up the road. Jan, though, once again able to find his way up into 3rd place.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Even after the qualifying, but must say David wasn't fighting Jan. He just let him pass, and probably that was because he was feeling guilty for what happened in the qualification session. So yeah, good from Jan. But even though that's just one position, the other positions, Jan just won on his own, and it's just like Sean always doing his first lap on mediums in qualifying, and Simply Superman. Getting a habit of finishing in 1st, it's almost a guarantee that Jen ends up in the podium this season.
Yeah, the first race of the season, Silverson's the only race this season so far that he hasn't finished on the podium. That is an incredible run of form. Langfell has got past Break FN on the road, so he's up into 7th place. Steve is his next target, but he'll have to pass Steve and build a 3-second gap if you want that 6th place on the road. The soft tyres are flying. The problem is they were too slow on the medium compound tyres at the start of the race to really make the strategy work for them. Kiki's had a spin coming through the penultimate corner, I think, whilst battling Velgen, so that move for 11th place hasn't paid off in the end for him, unfortunately. He'll stay in 12th. Graham in 13th is way off the back of this queue of cars. He's just got no pace at all. Despite Kiki's spin, he's 8 seconds behind. It's been a horror show of a race for Graham in this one. Only 13th on the road. Doesn't have any pace whatsoever. We've only got 3 laps to go when we next cross the line. Simply Superman still leads from Stinner, and Jan is spacing out a lot more throughout the top 3. Stinner's 2nd place looking comfortable. Jan leading the queue of cars in 3rd. I think maybe at this point just helping David save a little bit more ERS and hold on to that 4th place ahead of Tom, who likewise doesn't have any ERS either.
No, he didn't, and Jabu had another spin as well. And I think he picked up left side and played damage and going into the pits. I don't know if he is gonna end this race here, but yeah, Jabu, just another driver that race just falling apart here.
Yeah, it really has fallen apart, unfortunately. It's such a shame to see that the 3rd and 4th place mans in the standings, Graham and Jabu, are 13th and 17th in this race. It's been a real off day for both of them, and as it stands, David would jump the pair of them in the standings and go back up into 3rd place. That would massively help Racing Point in the with Kiki down in 12th place. Obviously got to think of other people in the standings as well. Tom would jump back inside the top 10 past Kieran Chap if he can hold on to this result. Stinner, I think, would jump up towards the top 10 as well if he holds on to the 2nd place. Langfell would jump up a couple of places.
Break FM.
Oh, he's had a spin. Or did he have contact? I didn't actually see that. It looks like he did have contact. Or it's actually jumped back up a little bit of the track for me. I don't know if he's jumped up a bit further for you as well.
Yeah, it looked like he just spun, but now he's okay. So probably it's a connection issue. But I just saw him spinning out of the corner and hitting the wall. But now it's all okay, and he's back on the. he's right back on the back of Steve.
That was probably one of the oddest desync moments I think I've ever seen. That was really bizarre. He was facing the wrong way down the pit straight, but now he's back up into 8th place and battling Steve for 7th. So, yeah, a little bit bizarre, but it was a bit of action that came to nothing. But either way, that spiced up the end of the race a little bit. That's another new one to add to the list of the many glitches that this game has had over its game cycle. That's a new one I haven't seen yet so far. He holds on to the 8th place for the time being. Does break FN right up behind Steve. Langfell has got 6th on the road, but he's only got 2 laps now to try and build that 3-second gap to Steve, and that is going to be a tall order with his soft tyres just continuing to fade as this race goes on. He's only 2 seconds behind Tom on the road, but at the moment with that penalty, 6th is really the best Langfell can hope for unless there was any crashes for the drivers in front. Onto the penultimate lap of the race. Jan still holding on to that 3rd place nicely. David not giving his teammate a hard time at this point in the race, although I'd say that he's on his overtake very early on and using that DRS to try and close in, but not going to have the straight line speed to do so. You can tell here though, from people driving behind Jan and Jan racing other people, Jan has definitely set that car up to be fast in a straight line, because every time he goes for an overtake, he almost gets the move done almost immediately. Yeah,
it's incredible, and even at defending, he doesn't have to use too much ERS to defend, because his straight line speed is just that good. But yeah, I'm a bit jealous of people being able to drive with really high speed setups, because I'm just not able to turn in a car with a setup like that.
Yeah, I might have to message Jan after this race and let him teach me his ways, because I'd like to know that for future races as well. It's definitely a win-win situation to have something fast in a straight line and that you can save the ERS with, because the amount of time you can gain just in a straight line from that is massive. Tom this time around much closer to the back of David, and they're both derating down the back straight. David though, with the DRS from his teammate in front, is going to be able to hold that. Tom really late on the brakes into turn 13, but just isn't close enough to make the move stick, so he stays in 5th place for the time being. We've seen Tom in these situations before, though, crack under pressure and make mistakes. He wants to at least bring home a top 5. I think would only be his 2nd top 5 finish of the season as it stands. He just wants to bring something home at this point in time. Break FN with another penalty is going to put him behind Sean, and I think behind Nelly as well as it stands. So Nelly could gain a couple of places back with the penalties from drivers around. Langfell, interestingly, has caught this queue of cars for 3rd place, but with only 1 lap to go and a time penalty, nothing is really going to come of it unless there is an incident. Final lap of the race, and yet again, Simply Superman from the front of the field has looked pretty much untouchable.
Yeah, he even extended his, even while he's cruising, he extended his lead by a second, but it could be that Stina, who's had a really good race, but I think from his perspective, quite a boring race, just being in a gap, nobody puts pressure on him, and he wasn't able to come close to Simply Superman. But yeah, Simply Superman, stellar of a race, Tina the same, and yeah, Jan as well. I mean, we have a couple of corners to go, but still great job from these podium guys.
Yeah, doing a brilliant job once again. Stinner right up there at the front of the field. Yellow flag, and that is for Atlas Copo, who was slowed down. I wonder whether Atlas Copo is just going to slow down and let Simply Superman through so he doesn't have to do another lap. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case around this track. This track is not a favourite for a lot of drivers, but it looks like it's going to be a favourite for Simply Superman. It's going to be his 4th win of the season out of 7 races. It has been the season he's been threatening ever since the birth of TTML. He is on of form. It's 2 in a row, 4th of the season. Simply Superman picked up yet another win in TTML Division 3. Stinner is on the podium for the Ferrari. That is a brilliant result and a brilliant drive from Stinner, and a round of applause again to Jan from 9th on the grid. He's on the podium. It's a 6-race run of podium finishes, but he does continue to lose points to Simply Superman in the championship. David comes home in 4th after an early pit stop, puts him right up that front of the field. Tom in 5th in the end just could never find a way through. Steve gets 6th in the end, with Langfell dropping to 7th with that penalty. Nelly does get 8th place, a somewhat of a consolidation from a race of what could have been for him. Sean in 9th, and Break FN rounds off the top 10, but only just ahead of Felgen, who had great pace on the mediums, but was just kind of stuck and mired in the traffic at the start of this one. We now just wait for Graham and Flores to cross the line. Graham in 13th. Flores in 14th position, not the races that they would have wanted whatsoever. Yet again, though, starting to sound a bit like a broken record. I mentioned it at the start of the season that it looked like it could have been a repeat of Division 2, Season 2, sorry, where we had multiple different race winners in a real tight battle. It's now starting to look a little bit like it did last season, where Old School dominated in the second half. It's starting to turn into a Simply Superman domination of this championship.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. It started up really well with multiple race winners, but yeah, it's absolutely Simply Superman just breaking away now, and yeah, the rest just can't follow with 4 races to go after this. So there's still some chances, but they have to do it quickly.
Yeah, they have got to do it. They've got to break Simply Superman's run of form before it gets any worse. After this race, the gap between Simply Superman and Jan would be 34 points, which is over a race victory, pole position, and fastest lap. So Jan needs a massive race this time next week to be able to close back into Simply Superman in the championship standings. Like I mentioned, David's going to gain a lot in the standings as well, as is Langfell, as is, I think, Steve as well, as is Tom. So look out for almost a completely different top 10 in the point standings this time next week. This is the full finishing order then. It's Simply Superman, Stinner and Jan on the podium for Alfa Romeo, Ferrari and Racing Point. David in 4th ahead of Tom in 5th. Steve, Langfell, Nelly, Sean and Break FN round off the top 10. Ahead of Felgen, Kiki, Graham, Flores, Kieran Chap, Atlas Copo and Jabu are your finishers. DJ Jill from pole position out of the race almost at the end of the first sector, pretty much out of the race. Secret Dundee out of the race pretty early on as well. Shame for those drivers, a shame for a lot of drivers. Bit of a bizarre race in the end. We had a few familiar faces at the front of the field, but a lot of drivers having pretty, well, I don't really know what the right word for it is, but kind of nothing races really, wasn't it, for a lot of drivers, especially the likes of Graham and Jabu.
Yeah, Graham, Jabu, Kiki, all guys who we know are fast, but they really had a disappointing race. I think that's the right word for it. Disappointing for them and disappointing for us as well, because we always like these guys challenging higher up. So yeah, we've got some guys who were just performing really, really well, like Stinna, wins podium, Jan, and Simply Superman, and yeah, some who we used to see higher up, but just disappointing race for them today.
Yeah, just really disappointing, and unfortunately it's a bit of a bogey track, it seems, maybe for those two drivers, and hopefully they'll be back on familiar performance territory this time next week. We're going into round 8 of the season, only 3 to go now. My word, this season, I mean, I say it every season, but the season is going by very quickly, and this time next week we go to Mexico, so a track where strategy plays more of a part than pretty much any race we've gone to so far this season. I think it's fairly similar to what we kind of saw in Canada, isn't it, in terms of strategy?
Yeah, it is, and also a really slippery track, like we've seen in China, for example. So difficult track, and strategy is key there. So yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting race, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it already.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. It's going to be a great run. It's going to be a great race to see what happens there. We'll have to wait and see if Simply Superman can keep up the run of form, or can Jan try and steal this championship off of Simply Superman, who has led it pretty much from the outset. That is where we're going to end off the stream today, guys, though. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in once again on a Thursday evening. Tune in at 8 PM tomorrow evening for Divisions 4 and 5. Get my words out in the right order. There we go. Divisions 4 and 5 tomorrow at 8 PM at Russia as well, so tune in to those. We're back next Thursday. Division 1 is on Tuesday, I believe, and we are back with Division 2 as well on Thursday. So keep an eye out for those as we get towards the end of Season 4 and almost towards the end of the game cycle. We're nearly there for the 2021 game, which the betas are now out for that game, which is great to see. We are getting close to the launch of that game, which is going to be really, really exciting. But for myself and Conti, it is thank you so much for tuning in once again, and we will see you in a week's time. Goodbye.